It's a feel good Friday. It's been a great week overall. Obviously, there's been some tenuous moments, especially around the Israel-Iran situation and the U.S.'s involvement with that. That was kind of like, it was a bit of a damper on the week. But the other sides of it were very fascinating because Mark Carney is getting exposed even more by the day. There's been issues I've been seeing on social media, issues I've been seeing kind of in the internet, the old internet over there, where I find conservative creators or conservatives in general are always trying to find things that are wrong, always trying to find the next thing and trying to blow it up out of proportion. And I'm like, patience. I know we're dying for content over here, but patience. The time will come. And that time came this week where a lot happened and came to the surface through the old Mark Carney. And the Conservative Party, the official opposition, did a good job in executing and exposing exactly what he's doing and putting the pressure on him to the point where even in the House of Commons this week, he went, He started looking like Justin Trudeau in the 44th Parliament. It was very fascinating to watch. And not only that, not only were the Conservatives exposing issues, now the Conservatives have been proposing ideas to expose the flawed ideology of the Liberal government of Canada. Welcome to the LA Podcast, everyone. It's so good to have you all on one more time. I'm your host, Josh Udall. I'm so grateful to have you on with me. If you get any value from this episode today, if you get anything from it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, because it is a great, fascinating time to be alive. Yes, things can be a little bleak in politics. Things are a little rough at times, but there's always a positive to pull and try to engage and enrich your soul, babies. And that's what we are going to do today on this Feel Good Friday. And I'll show you what I mean as we get into our first story. Now let's go. So first off, this happened earlier this week. And again, the stories we're going to be hitting on are stories you've likely seen already or kind of grazed by at some point this week. But we're going to kind of bring it all together to kind of show you the overarching theme that is taking place and how it's ending off our week to this week. First off, in the House of Commons, there was a bit of a debate happening between the Liberal side and the Conservative side. Again, it was one of those days where it was talking about government orders. And then specifically, they were talking about Bill C-3. They're looking to amendments to the Citizenship Act, where they're essentially trying to expand citizenship to more people by essentially allowing people who weren't born here, but maybe had a Canadian parent, but weren't born in Canada, or say born in France, for example, that they're able to give citizenship to their kids if they then give birth to their kids in France. And that's what they're trying to expand the Canadian citizenship to. And that was the conversation that was happening here. And so the Liberals stood up in the House of Commons and says, okay, can we find somewhere we can finally work together? Because that's been the rhetoric happening in Parliament these days. It's been, the Conservatives refuse to work with us. We are always proposing ideas and they're always crying about it. That's been the rhetoric. And so that was kind of the idea that this Liberal MP decided to go down and try to play towards. And Michelle Rempel Garner, of the other side of Calgary Nose Hill, had this to say in response to it, and this was fascinating.
Government Deputy House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the opportunity to the member to answer my question. I'm curious to know, and I really do want to know how we can make this House function better and work together better, because that's what Canadians want from us. They want their members of Parliament to speak to each other like members of Parliament and find ways to work together.
The Honourable Member.
Don't table junky legislation. Come on, go to the immigration minister and say there was literally months and months of testimony that could have been included in this bill, and she just pulled it off the shelf and then expected us to take it. That's not acceptable. I will never back down on my responsibility to hold the government to account on behalf of my constituents. I know people don't like hearing it, but that's why I am paid to be here. That is what over 60% or close to 60% of the good people of Calgary Nose Hill voted for on April 28th, was me standing here holding the government to account. And if the Liberals want to work collaboratively, do not table junky legislation. It's kind of easy. Thank you.
What a way to go there. Really appreciate Michelle's frankness and thoughtful process here in this moment, where it's not just we're just slapping down your ideas. It's like, no, just bring something to the table that doesn't suck. That might be a good idea. We will happily work with you, but just let's bring something a little more thoughtful. And she made the example of like, it was clear that there was no thought into this bill. It was just, we're going to pull it off the shelf. This is something old that we're bringing back to the table, blowing the dust off it and hoping that it gets passed this time because it's a different parliament. It's like, no, come to us with different ideas. Come to us with something a little more thoughtful, then we'll work together to make it happen. It's pretty simple, and that is the rhetoric that the Conservatives need to start hitting on more. Because that was a bit of a mistake, and it was easy. And I don't even say it's a mistake because it was the reality of the last parliament was Justin Trudeau's Liberals were out of control. They weren't tabling really next to anything that was worth talking about. However, because of the rebuke that the Trudeau Liberals of that parliament received, the Carney Liberals had to at least show a facade that they're a little bit more conservative these days, which has forced them to have to at least placate for the media, placate for Canadians that they have wanting to work with the Conservatives to make things happen. And so the Conservatives know that these are hollow ideas. The Conservatives know that this is a hollow approach, but they're putting their feet to the fire on it. And Michelle didn't just stand there saying, we'll work with you if you bring something to the table. She then decided this week to bring her own bill to the table around a very controversial bill that was brought up last parliament. And that was around Bill C-63. You remember that? It was the bill where the Liberals touted that we're here to protect children online. And they gave all these weird sweeping ideas in this bill. Essentially, they wanted to create a government-appointed group that could tell social media companies what they could and what they couldn't put on their platforms. Gave sweeping powers to the government to decide what was bad, what was good, what could be allowed, what was not allowed. And it was all under the guise of, well, we're doing it for the children. We want to protect children from child pornography. We want to protect women from revenge porn. We want to, boom, boom, boom. These were the thoughts that they put out there. These were the tidbits they put out there. These were the sound bites they put out there. They had all these crazy things that kind of like Bill C-5. They're cramming all these wild, overreaching government legislation into this bill and then saying, oh, we're doing it for the children, though. We want to monitor the internet for the children. Yet we know that as long as it gets through, they'll then use that to apply to other people. It was never for the youth only. It was always for the rest of us and be able to use legislation to be able to police what is said and not said on the internet. That was a concern that people had about that bill. So Michelle Rempel Garner said, you know what? Don't bring to the table junky legislation. And actually, you know what? I know the spirit. I know the heart that you had with Bill C-63. And I want to really accentuate that heart and bring it to the fold and really show that we care about the children. I really want to show that we can protect children on the internet without infringing on the civil liberties of Canadian citizens. And with that, I'll say this. We are in a technology age. We are in an age where your information is being sold at a premium. You might sign up for a newsletter, sign up for a loyalty card. The next thing you know, you're getting spam calls and you're also getting spam emails and people just won't leave you alone. And quite frankly, if you're like me, you're one of those types who's just resigned and hoping and praying nothing bad happens in the long run. Then a service called Incogni came across my desk. A service that scours the internet for your information and puts requests in to make sure your information is removed from these third-party services who are selling your information at a premium without your discretion. As I've said, there's times I've signed up for newsletters, signed up for loyalty programs, and all of a sudden I'm getting phone calls from numbers I otherwise don't know anything about. Or I'm getting emails, again, from addresses I know nothing of and didn't ask for at any point in time. Or, even worse, you hear of a big data breach of a service you don't even use, and somehow you find out your information was leaked in it. And that's where Incogni comes in clutch. You simply log in, put your information in, and then they start looking across the internet of where your information has been used, sold, or being traded with third-party partners. I've only been using it for the past week, and they found 39 instances already of services who are using my information and selling it at a premium or trading it at a premium. In this case, they found 39. They've resolved 26 of them already, and they're still working on the other 13 to get them removed immediately. And you can see my whole activity log right here. And as a bonus, get an extra level of protection with Incogni's custom removals feature in the Unlimited plan and Family Unlimited plan. You can point to any search site or other website where your personal information is visible, and one of their privacy agents will take care of the rest for you. If you want to keep your internet ID safe online, then download Incogni today. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code ELEVATE at incogni.com/elevate, and that's incogni.com/elevate, and you can get 60% off their annual plan today. And that is, again, incogni.com/elevate. Use code ELEVATE at checkout to get 60% off their annual plan. Now let's get into our next story. And this was kind of the overall summary points of the bill. Part 1 was duty of care. The bill creates a legislated duty for online platforms to protect minors using their services. Unlike some foreign models, it stops short of banning youth access and avoids new regulatory bodies. Part 2 of the bill, exploitation reporting. It enhances existing laws on reporting child sexual abuse and exploitation materials, building on earlier bipartisan legislative efforts. And part 3 of it is the AI and harassment laws. The bill modernizes privacy laws by including deepfake and non-consensual AI-generated images and allows harassment victims to seek immediate court orders for protection. And if you want to read the full article, we'll link it below. There it says the title is Bill C-216, as she puts it. Protects kids online while preserving civil liberties, solves problems for the liberals. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how you do it. Not only do you say, your bill sucks, we're not doing it, you bring forward your own bill and you put pressure on it. Like, okay, there's a parts of your bill that we really don't like. And when you actually look at it with a microscope, a lot of people are not going to like it. Just seeing how the liberal side of the aisle have been reacting to Bill C-5 and saying, whoa, Mark Carney wants to do what? You know that's how they're going to feel about Bill C-3 when you really get down to it. Because there's two parts to it. There was the child side of it, then there was this other side of it where it's like, yeah, we're going to start, appointing all these legislative bodies, and we say what and what is not allowed on the internet. It was kind of weird. And that was happening. And Michelle comes here and says, all right, we're going to strip that first part out and we're going to focus on, okay, how can we actually, the heart of the bill, you said it was, let's focus on actually protecting kids online. That might be a good start. And sure, we can get down the nitty gritty of the bill, and sure, there'll be amendments and there's ideas and there will be iterations that this will have to go through to make sure that is airtight. However, this is how you start it all off. You don't just kibosh the bill saying it sucks. You then bring forward your own bill. You nix all the things that you hate about theirs, and you get down to the heart of the bill that they've been trying to sell to the public. Okay, you want to make this about kids, saving kids. All right, then let's save kids then. Let's get a bill that actually focuses on the issue instead of adding all these weird extra lines to the bill that no one else talks about and the media won't report on and makes us look bad if we vote against it. Aha. So I think this was a good move by Michelle Rempel Garner, who is a very seasoned politician here in Canada. And we'll see where this goes. I think this is a good way to end off the week for the Conservatives, especially when it comes to the likes of this bill. But then we get to the fun stuff this week. Again, these highlights have happened this week in the House of Commons. And again, this was talked about, right? We had the ban coming on the gas-powered vehicles by 2035. And Andrew Scheer called it out and says, well, are you sure it's really about saving the planet, or is it about saving some dollars in your pocket there, Mr. Mark Carney? And this was interesting.
You don't have to allow Canadians to buy one type of vehicle by banning their ability to buy the ones that they actually want. But, this is raising a lot of questions. Canadians, auto workers, Ford, GM, they all don't want the EV mandate, but the Prime Minister is intent on pushing it through. Why? Well, right before becoming Prime Minister, he was chair of Brookfield, and he advocated for a ban on gas-powered cars. Brookfield is heavily invested in the EV supply chain, yet this Prime Minister refuses to reveal his financial interests or self-admitted conflicts. Isn't it true that this isn't about the environment, this is about the bottom line for Brookfield?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence.
We're in a trade war launched by the United States that's targeting our auto workers and our auto sector. Make no mistake, we will fight for every job and every worker. We have invested in the auto sector, including the EV sector, to build good jobs in places like St. Thomas, where the Amino Corp is employing people. This government will always invest in workers and make sure that the auto industry is growing, resilient, and successful.
You almost got there, Evan Solomon. Way to be there, buddy. So that was it, right? The real question came out. Okay, we know that before he became Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Carney advocated for the fact that he wanted to see the banning of gas-powered vehicles. And now we see Brookfield, who's invested heavily in the supply chain of electric vehicles. So is this, I don't know, is this really for the planet, or is this for your bottom line? We also saw his He saw his interview at a conference last year where he said, yes, the world's changing to more green-centric things, and there's ways for us to make money on that. And those were not exactly his words, but very close to them. And it was clear that he sees this as a money-making scheme. Now, Prime Minister of Canada can introduce legislation that actually brings forward a ban on gas-powered vehicles so that it forces people to have to buy electric vehicles or not even get vehicles at all. And Brookfield makes money on it. And this was something that Mr. Andrew Scheer was right to call out in the House of Commons. And again, this is just another highlight I just wanted to hit on. I didn't want to get too deep into it because we get into the story from yesterday where Michael Barrett called on Mark Carney directly in the House of Commons right across the aisle and says, dude, what is going on with the conflicts of interest? We want to know what those conflicts are. We want you to be honest with us. And Michael Barrett, who shadow minister for ethics, there's a reason why he's the shadow minister for ethics. He doesn't have that name. Unlike other times in government, people just have names for the sake of having it so they have a job. Michael Barrett actually encapsulates and really embodies ethics. He's a very straight, narrow man. He really believes in this stuff, and he's not a guy you want to mess with on this. And Mark Carney found that out firsthand.
Last night we learned that the Prime Minister has an entire department of bureaucrats trying to manage his conflicts of interest, but they can't even tell us if the Prime Minister has set up a conflict of interest screen. And so that means that the former chairman of a multi-billion-dollar investment firm is sitting at the cabinet table and could be taking decisions that personally improve his financial standing. He's been Prime Minister for 100 days, but he's still jumping through these ethical loopholes. So why won't the Prime Minister stop hiding the truth from Canadians and come clean? What are your conflicts of interest?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike member opposite, I'm proud of having experience in the private sector. I'm proud of having experience helping to build this country. I'm proud of having filed all my requirements in advance before required, including a screen for the conflict of interest. I'll wait on these.
And those who follow politics very closely in Canada know that what Mark Carney said there was a grave, grave mistake, especially in this whole new era the Liberals have ushered in of trying to stoke Canadian nationalism. Wasn't a good look, and he's about to F around and find out.
Well, unlike the Right Honourable Prime Minister, I'm proud to have served our country in the Canadian Armed Forces in uniform. This Prime Minister seems to do whatever he thinks he can get away with. He voted for the Liberals' ban on gas-powered cars while Brookfield is heavily invested in the EV supply chain. We know that he used offshore tax havens in the Caribbean to avoid paying Canadian taxes. His own department won't even say if he set up conflicts of interest screens. So instead of maligning people who serve the country in uniform, why doesn't he stand up and come clean about his conflicts of interest?
Oh, he said, what's up? What's going on? Look at the face on that man. Says, you can tell he was livid at Mark Carney's statement on there because it was a very arrogant thing to say, especially not knowing who you're saying it to. I think Mark Carney had this canned response that he would have to the likes of Pierre Poilievre. That one's not going to work on Mr. Michael Barrett. And Michael Barrett came back with a vengeance on this. Got people fired up, got the Conservative side fired up, and to get Mark Carney a little frazzled.
Mr. Prime Minister, sorry. Battlefield promotion there. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud as Prime Minister to have made the biggest investment in our military in decades. I am proud to be reversing the decades of cuts in members opposite.
So here's the thing. Those who haven't been in the House of Commons before, it gets a little loud there, as you saw with Mark Carney. It was getting loud. It was hard for him to speak over. You can kind of gather over the mics that it's pretty loud. But that's just through his mic that's being picked up on. You have no idea. If it's that loud in the mic, it is insanely loud in that room. And it's really, really hard to speak over it. So first off, Mark Carney's rattled because he realized he made himself look like an idiot in the House of Commons. Number two, he was trying to get a response as of, oh no, but we've invested in the... Oh, what was it? Oh, yeah. The military, yeah, the Canadian Armed Forces, that's the name we're looking for. Yeah, we even invested in the Canadian, like this, he looked ridiculous. And this was a good moment for just truth, transparency to a degree this week. It was good to see the Conservatives have a very effective opposition strategy this week. Beginning of the week, people were a little confused. Like, why are you helping usher in Bill C-5 on first reading? That felt weird. And sure, there's political strategy to that, and I understand. But the people had questions about that at the beginning of the week. Well, those questions were answered by the end of the week because the Conservatives came in hard. Not just on we're here to oppose, but we're also here to propose as well. And this has been a very effective week for the official opposition. It's been a very kind of week for Mark Carney and the Liberals because, well, you had the G7 at the beginning of the week, which was kind of a nothing burger kind of time. But then you had Mark Carney stand in front of Donald Trump and kind of act like his bodyguard while at the G7. That was kind of weird and had to kind of take Trump just laying the smack down on him verbally this week as well. And then to follow that up at the latter half of the week for the Conservatives to really mop you in the House of Commons. Tough week for the Liberals, good week for the Conservatives, and we'll see how this We'll see how this fares going forward. I think we're going into our final week of House of Commons. Next week's our final week before summer break, so we'll see how it all goes and see how it all transpires. But it has been a fascinating go this week, and we'll finish off with this story, talking about fascinating stories. 12, and I repeat, 12 IRCC employees tried to interfere with immigration files misconduct report finds. And to remind you, the IRCC is the Immigration Refugee Citizenship Canada. They found 12. They found 12 people who were trying to screw around with their immigration files. 12. Staff of the Federal Immigration Department tried to interfere with applications to enter and stay in Canada, with one asking a colleague whether they would accept money to approve a study permit. A report published Friday on misconduct and wrongdoing found. The first ever report on misconduct at Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada disclosed that in 2023-2024, 12 staff took advantage of their ability to access IRCC systems to look at people's files. Some checked or asked about the status of immigration files for family members, friends, and acquaintances, or checked their status out of curiosity. In some cases, IRCC employees tried to get immigration cases fast-tracked or asked a colleague to make corrections to a file. IRCC has around 13,000 employees, including some working in embassies abroad. The case of misconduct the department unearthed involved a small minority of staff. In 2023-2024, an IRCC case processing agent asked another employee through an internal messaging app whether they would accept money for approving a study permit, an immigration document needed by international students to come to Canada. The employee who received the request informed the agent that the request violates IRCC's code of conduct, the report says. The report said the agent who made the request replied with a falsified story stating that another individual to whom the agent owed money had taken control of their laptop and requested the information. Upon further investigation, it was found the agent was under financial hardship, the report said. The reliability status of the case processing agent was revoked. And so there's kind of some weird stories that were happening around this. As I said, there's 13,000 employees, 12 were found out. So, it's a very, very, very tiny percentage of people who are found out to be screwing around with their immigration files. However, at this point in our country's history, our immigration system is, what's the word? I think it's a 4-letter word. It's a mess these days, and it's a bit of a problem. And so when you start having the IRCC having issues of people getting in, and screwing around with immigration files, screwing around with fast-tracking people who have no business being fast-tracked. And we are already struggling with the lack of vetting of people coming into this country. This is not establishing trust in the Canadian people. This is not helpful for the Canadian people. And the issue I do have about the story is this is a story I feel like should be shared. I feel like it's a story that people should know about. However, as per usual, anything that's damning or anything that's interesting, read the little box there. It says 4 subscribers. 4 subscribers. Yeah. That's how that works. That is behind a paywall. This is a fascinating story, and I think it's information people should know about. But anything that's damning or anything that is really incriminating of the current government tends to be behind a paywall. And if you remember, the only time that something was very incriminating about the current government or the future government at the time, the incumbent, it was because the media got mad that Mark Carney treated them so poorly during the campaign. And so they took an article that was damning of them and put it into the free model. That was the only time I've seen it, is when they tried to prove a point to the Liberal Party. But most times it's behind a paywall. And this is kind of how that operates, and that's how it goes. But it is a fascinating story I think people should know about. I think it's a fascinating story that people should take note of. And I'm glad they found 12 people of the 13,000 employees they have. Again, it's a small group. However, the question then lies. This is only based off people reporting other people. I'll say that much. You found 12 people because people snitched on them. And the reality is people don't like being snitches. People don't like being tattletales. So how many more people in immigration services right now is there more screwing around going on with files? That's a question that I'll put out there. We don't know yet. We want to know what that answer is. And we'll see where this goes from here. I'll leave you there with that. But enjoy your weekend. Hope you have yourselves a good one. And have yourselves an amazing, feel good Friday. Whether you be enjoying a cold beverage, whether you be going playing some golf, or just enjoying some time reading a good book. Whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, I love you. I'm out.